Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. The Qing dynasty was the last feudal dynasty in Chinese history. Since its establishment in 1616, its rule has been eventful, particularly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. When the country faced significant historical turning points marked by internal strife, external threats, humiliation, and transformation. During this tumultuous period, it appeared that Emperor Guangxu of the Aisin-Zhou family held power. However, the true highest authority was Empress Dowager Cixi. The circumstances surrounding her death were particularly mysterious. In 1908, shortly after Emperor Guangxu passed away, Cixi died just one day after arranging for the 3-year-old Puyi to succeed him. While it seemed that Cixi's death was due to her old age, she had presided over court affairs the day before, preparing to continue her political influence, and appeared to be in good spirits. Why, then, did she suddenly die the following day? According to recent revelations by historians, Cixi's most favored eunuch, Lianying's sister, disclosed that the real cause of her death was not illness. So, what was this delayed truth? Lianying's sister indicated that Cixi had begun to exert influence even during the reign of Emperor Tongzhi, prior to Emperor Guangxu. Being the biological mother of Tongzhi and holding power herself, Cixi caused significant frustration for him. To persuade his mother to relinquish power, Emperor Tongzhi even ignored the empty state treasury and the precarious political situation, insisting on using considerable resources to renovate the old summer palace, hoping this would lead to Cixi moving out of the palace and allowing him to gain actual authority. Unfortunately, Emperor Tongzhi did not live to see that day. Subsequently, Cixi chose Emperor Guangxu to ascend the throne and resumed her political influence, becoming the de facto highest ruler of the Qing dynasty. However, power does not tolerate rivals. As Emperor Guangxu grew up, he yearned for genuine power rather than being a puppet. At that time, China was engulfed in a long darkness. Having signed humiliating treaties with France and facing provocations from Japan, culminating in the disgraceful Treaty of Shimonoseki. Stimulated by these events, Emperor Guangxu began to question the adherence to traditional customs and actively sought reforms, learning from foreign policies with the aim of strengthening the nation. After the First Sino-Japanese War, he issued the edict clarifying national affairs, commissioning reformers like Kang Youwei and Liang Qichao to implement top-down reforms known as the 100 Days Reform. Despite various reforms undertaken during this movement, it threatened the interests of entrenched elites, who swiftly reported these developments to Cixi. Although she had retreated from the public eye, she urgently returned to the palace at night, resumed power, and ordered the arrest of reformists, an event known as the Wushu coup. Kang Youwei and Liang Qichao fled abroad, while Emperor Guangxu lost his personal freedom and was placed under house arrest at Yingtai in Zongnanhai, with conservative forces led by Cixi regaining control. From then on, Cixi returned to the forefront of political affairs. The relationship between Emperor Guangxu and Cixi deteriorated irreparably, and Cixi realized that Guangxu had matured and was no longer easily controllable. As a woman, she recognized that continuing to dominate state affairs when the emperor was of age was not reasonable. Thus, Cixi needed a more manageable, naive, and completely controllable young emperor. However, deposing an emperor is not a simple task. How could she achieve her goals? Administering slow-acting poison to cause his death was a viable strategy. Carrying out such an act was not particularly difficult for Cixi, as she had many loyal subordinates at her command. The person most likely to arrange this matter is Cixi's trusted aide, Lianying. According to the Qing dynasty court system, the security measures were extremely tight. Ordinary people were never allowed to wander freely, even in the imperial kitchen where poisoning could occur. A single misstep could be fatal. To move freely in various places required significant power, as well as the ability to easily access the emperor or even arrange his attendance. Therefore, it is entirely reasonable that Cixi, driven by her desire to control power, would engage in such actions. However, the Guangxu emperor was not a fool. When he realized his health was deteriorating and he was about to follow in the footsteps of Emperor Tongji, how could he just sit back and wait for his demise? Moreover, he was a young man who had organized reforms and had progressive ideas. Thus, the Guangxu emperor might very well have sought to remove Cixi through his own means, launching a counterattack. The palace was the center of power, filled with the complexities of human nature, both light and dark. Consequently, if the Guangxu emperor arranged for someone to poison Cixi, it would inevitably require the involvement of those close to her, who spent their days together. Interestingly, the participant in this plot turned out to be the favored eunuch of Cixi. Lianying's sister, who had always known that Cixi did not die of an illness, but only dared to reveal this truth in her later years. This illustrates the horrifying truth hidden beneath the surface before the announcements of Cixi's death or other causes. It is worth mentioning that, in the eyes of most people, China suffered a century of humiliation during the Qing dynasty. Consequently, the last actual ruler, Cixi, did not garner any favorable impressions. Some say that because a woman held power, the foreign policy was weak, leading to numerous treaties that ceded territory and paid indemnities. Others argue that Cixi's love for luxury caused her to prioritize grand construction projects and lavish birthday celebrations at a time when the survival of the nation was at stake. There are also claims that Cixi was ruthless, imprisoning her son and nephew for power, and even orchestrating her nephew's death through poison. However, some historians argue that when Cixi was younger and still a concubine, she was very firm in her pro-war stance in the face of foreign aggression. She was not weak and accommodating from the beginning. Throughout her life, Cixi implemented two major reforms, the self-strengthening movement and the late Qing reforms, both of which had substantial positive effects on social development and productivity. Of course, no character is perfect, and Cixi is no exception. Her later weak attitude toward foreign powers and the signing of numerous unequal treaties are indeed facts. As for whether Cixi's death was related to the Guangxu emperor's conspiracy, there is still no conclusive evidence. However, it is certain that the power struggles within the Qing court were filled with conspiracy and betrayal. During his years of imprisonment, the Guangxu emperor harbored thoughts of rebellion. He hoped to end Cixi's rule and restore his power in his own way, which was certainly possible. All of this reflects the ruthlessness and brutality at the center of power. The power games inside and outside the palace ultimately became part of history. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.